All right, what's up, my brother? So in this video, I'm going to be responding to a Reddit post that was forwarded to me. I think this is an interesting one because it has to do with a woman that's 38 who's not in love with her fiance, but worried she won't find somebody else to have kids with at this late stage in life. She asks, is good compatibility as a support system and friendship enough to sustain a marriage without romantic love? Let's get into this. So the body of the message says, first off, I, a 38-year-old female, have talked extensively to my fiance, who's also a 38-year-old male, about the fact that I have never been sexually attracted to him and that I never did the whole fall in love with thing with him. Wow, that would have been, or could have been, quite the blow to a man's ego. I would imagine for him to make a concession and capitulate and stay with somebody that's clearly not that interested in him, not picking him first. You know, I've often said over and over again in these videos that, you only want to choose women that choose you. And it seems like right off the bat, we're off to a bad start, but let's keep going. So she says, this isn't a secret. He knows about it. We actually have a great relationship in so many other aspects. We are supportive of each other, have similar interests, shared hobbies, similar humor, and get along well with each other's families. We have similar life goals and priorities. Essentially, it's a great friendship. We are a wonderful support system for one another and provide companionship. Have you heard me say before how guys like to complicate their life and justify why they do it? It's not just guys that do it. He is actually a pretty good-looking dude, but I have never been sexually/chemically attracted to him. He proposed knowing that our sex 3 to 4 times a month probably would never change. Oh my God, 3 to 4 times a month? Woo! Not good. He proposed knowing that, while I do indeed love him, I am not in love with him. He is very in love with me and would do anything for me, etc. He's very sexually interested in me. Sometimes I wonder if I'm doing the right thing marrying him. Anyway, she goes on. I think I may want a child. Here it is. This is why she's together with him, I'm sure. I'm 38. The truth is that I probably won't find anyone else at this stage of life to give that to me, and I can't afford the IVF process, so that isn't really an option for me. I'm not 100% sure I want a kid, but I know that if I leave this relationship, the option is off the table. I wonder sometimes if it was wrong for me to go forward getting married to him, knowing that I really don't love him. He loves me and that I don't particularly feel physically drawn to him. I worry that I'll never have the opportunity to fall in love again, but feel that really magical and special connection to another person. Okay, but I also think that we don't always get everything we want in life, and it's possible I may not find that outside this relationship anyway. I'd love people's thoughts, even from the trolls. Ha ha ha. TLDR, I'm not in love, nor do I have chemistry with my fiance. He knows this. I'm marrying him, blah, blah, blah. We've already covered all this. Okay, so let's hop on the road here and put some thought into this. You know, somebody once said to me, Rich, you can have it all. You just can't have it all at the same time when it comes to, your love life or your dating life. And I think they're right. You can find someone to tick off a lot of boxes for you, a lot of your must-haves or prerequisites, if you will, but it's usually pretty unlikely that they're going to tick off all the boxes. By the way, men have a much shorter list of boxes than women do, but nonetheless, we do have our preferences. I'm just going to close this because I got the bike on the rack and it's making a lot of wind noise, so quiet things down hopefully a little bit. So the thing being here is that we've got a 38-year-old woman that hasn't had any kids. So she has what's called baby rabies, even though she doesn't really admit it in the Reddit post. But anytime a woman makes concessions with a man to find a guy that's just good enough, so to speak, it's usually because she realizes that she's at the end or almost right at the end of her reproductive life cycle, if you will. Because women, when they hit menopause, they don't have kids anymore. Eggs stop dropping and that's it. They're not physically able to carry a child, which is why nature says we don't need to drop eggs anymore, we're all out. That's it, the carton's empty, throw it in the garbage. Now it's grandma duties. And that's the way it's been for millions of years, right? Women would have their babies, and when they're done having their babies, then their babies would have babies and they would help raise those babies. It's interesting, but that's just a fact reality. We live in a world today where a lot of people are now having kids, well into the I don't want to use autumn years of their lives, but into the later stages of their lives. And it's not, I mean, it's not that uncommon, if I could put it this way, that there's couples that are having kids into their early 40s or late 30s. Not that it's a good idea. You want to, like, they're always considered high-risk pregnancies when you leave it into your mid to late 30s. I remember when I was a lot younger and, you know, engaged to be married sort of thing, there was a lot of conversations around that time in my relationship and others, you know, close to that, where, you know, the ladies would be Googling things like, you know, the chances of birth defects, learning disorders, things like that. And I think there was some stat that was presented at one time where it's like every year after the age of 30, the chances of all these things go up something like a few percent per year. So by the time they're 40, it's a high-risk pregnancy. So it can be quite dangerous to the child and to the mother. So she has a legitimate concern, but as I always like to say, fellas that are watching, don't let her make her problems your problems. Like, things like this don't usually end very well. I've seen this movie before, and by that I mean because I've talked to enough guys that have gone through the divorce machine, the grinder, and dealt with difficult sort of acrimonious divorces. You know, the way she is today is not necessarily the way that she's going to be during the divorce. In fact, on a balance of probabilities, the woman you divorce is not going to be the same woman that you marry. So if you want to be a father, if you want to be a dad and have access to parent your kid if things go sideways, which in a situation like this is going to be likely, because once she has a kid, now she's got that out of the way. She's reproduced. And if she's not in love with the guy, what generally happens, and believe it or not, fellas and ladies watching this is a lot more common than you think, where women will go and get married to a guy that's just good enough, the beta bucks part of the equation, because she's been run through by a bunch of guys in her younger years partying it up, and then she finds a guy that's just good enough. He wifes her up, puts a ring on it, puts a bun or two or three in the oven, they have some kids, she loses the weight, starts going to the yoga classes, starts looking good again, maybe gets a, you know, post-baby breast augmentation to really perk things up a little bit. And one thing leads to another, and all of a sudden she's porking her yoga instructor or something like that. You know, I realize that some of this might sound a little far-fetched, and there's always going to be the odd person in the comment, oh, who hurt you, da, da, da. I'm just stating facts. That's all I do. I observe, you know, the reality of the world, and because I've unplugged from these comforting lies, I see these things. I also see them more often than most others do, also because I end up doing a lot of coaching consults. And there's a lot of guys where it's like, okay, this is what's happened, and one of the questions I always ask is, did she have genuine burning desire for you? Did she pine for you? Would she want to enthusiastically have sex with you on a very frequent basis? And very often, when the answer is no to that, and he would get his 3 to 4 times a month sex like this lady's talking about, that's when things go very, very bad. Again, once she has the kids out of the way, she's met her biological imperative. She also has family law 100% on her side, so if she does decide to leave, she knows that she'll be well looked after. She mentioned in that post that she doesn't have the money for IVF treatment. I don't know what it costs where she lives. I don't know what it costs in the United States, but I think in Canada, it's something like $15,000 to $25,000, depending on the complexity, how many treatments they're going to do. In the grand scheme of things, not really that much money, but that clearly tells me that she's not a strong income earner. So not only is she not physically attracted to this guy who has proposed to marry her, which it sounds like she's accepted, she's not physically attracted, she's also not very well off, which is pretty standard and par for the course, because we know women are hypergamous and they date across and up when they mate select over a long-term basis. So she's marrying a guy that's genetically gifted enough, you know, but not so much that she's sexually drawn to him, like she wants to throw herself at him, but sexually, you know, attractive enough that she'd want to reproduce with him and take his seed on, but not so much that she wants to bang him all the time and she's enthusiastic about it. But he also has enough money. So you see where the problem starts to lie here. And I don't blame her for this, I blame him for this, because he's the idiot that's looking past all of these problems, thinking to himself, you know, let's just have a kid or two and we'll see how it goes, and maybe I can convince her later on down the road, instead of having sex 3 to 4 times a month, we might be able to have it 3 to 4 times a week. Let me give you a news flash, guys. You generally don't have more sex after you say I do. You generally have less sex after you say I do. When you move in with a woman and or get married, the amount of enthusiastic sex that you're going to have is generally going to go down, not go up. It generally does not improve. That's just the reality of the world. And again, I'm just stating facts. Don't shoot the messenger, all right? So there's a whole bunch of problems with this. My advice to this guy, where he'd be sitting, beside me in the car right now, is don't do it, bro. But the reality of the world is guys like that will never listen. She's going to a Reddit posted forum looking for the advice from other people. And I scrolled down through some of the comments, and it was all the same, like, maybe if you try it out with the guy, I kind of had the similar sort of thing with my husband, and we sort of worked out sort of thing. Or there's an invitation to open up the marriage and make it polyamorous or something like that, where, women have suggested, well, maybe you can convince him to let you go bang other guys while, you guys raise this kid or kids together sort of thing. And he might be open to that because at least he gets his sexual needs met as well, blah, blah, blah. So there's not a very good check and balance system, if you know what I'm saying, on forums like this when it comes to the reality of the way the world works. It's a complex situation. Men and women are complex beings. To untie a knot like this where she doesn't have genuine burning desire for you is definitely complex. If you don't know what genuine burning desire is, in my book, pinned to the top comment, The Unplugged Alpha, Chapter 3. Go get the book if you're newer to the channel. So there's all of those things to consider. What I'd like to do at this point is, I bet right now there's a bunch of you guys watching this that are like, oh shit, that's exactly what I did and this is how it worked out for me. Leave that comment below, chime in, so you can get some dialogue going back and forth. Hit the thumbs up for the algorithm. And again, check the top pinned comment. There's a bunch of useful links there to my website, to my supplements, my book, how to book me for coaching, all that good stuff. See you guys in the next video. Peace out.